and they need some really big rings. They need some really nice things. Better be coming with no strings. Better be coming with no strings. We need some really nice things. We need some really big rings. I got a really big team. I got a really big team, and they need some really.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of The Locker Room. I'm here with Josh Reynolds. What's going on, brother?
Not much, mate. Day off, cruising.
Mate.
We'll come down and have a chat.
Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. How have you been? You know, the doggies, you've lost a few in a row, but there was a time there in the season when you were starting to pick up a bit of momentum. How's everything at the club going and for yourself personally?
Yeah, mate, as you know, you lose two in a row and, it is a different feel at training. There's that added bit of pressure of, you definitely don't want to lose three in a row, especially at this end of the season.
Yep.
But don't get me wrong, we're not going to training with the alarm bells ringing. Our team's got a fair few guys that have, been in semi-finals before, and a couple of years ago we lost our last game to the Gold Coast, who were pretty far down the ladder, and then come out and beat Melbourne in the first semi in Melbourne. So there's definitely that belief in the team that we know we can come from outside the four. Don't get me wrong, it's that bit harder, but yeah, we're definitely not at panic stations at the moment. Myself, mate, sort of happy with my game at stages. Obviously, I want to get better heading into the back end of the season, but I'm constantly working on my game and just want to. It's my fifth year now, and I've pretty much played in the semis nearly every year, and I really want to make a difference in the semis. I feel that's one of the things for me. I feel in final series I haven't been able to take a stamp on a game, so that's something that I really want to try and do this year.
Yeah, and I guess, you look at your last few years and it is, you look at you now and you're like, yeah, Reynolds is playing mad, so it's all good. But you've had to genuinely work at your game over the last few years. You shot onto the scene, 2011, everything went really well, and you had this like 2 or 3 year run where I assume it was smooth sailing and life was great. But then you hit those hurdles that everyone hits in their career. Some people shy away from it and they just kind of drop off, and some people fight it and continue to go. For yourself, even this last maybe, because I reckon, if I'm recalling correctly, about 24 months ago, it was real tough times for you. And that 12 months was hard for you. And then this year you've kind of bounced back into that slowly. You were getting more confident, more just, I guess, more professional, you know what I mean? You get that professional kind of vibe because you've been playing for so long. Am I summing this up correctly, or is that?
Yeah, I reckon you've pretty much nailed it. Coming in as a young kid, I was pretty blessed to come into a pretty good side. Des sort of put trust in me to, be the 5'8" at the club when I haven't really played much 5'8" and whatever. But if Des Hasler comes to a side and trusts you to lead a side around, I was very privileged. And when I first come into the scene, I feel now I'm a totally different player. And people will say to me, 2012 was you had a pretty solid season, and don't get me wrong, I had so much fun, but the game's it's so different now for me. Now I go into a game feeling a bit more mature. Definitely realising what a half needs to do in a game. But before I was maybe in a game for 50 minutes, whereas now I can feel I can stay in it for 80. And that's something that I've had to really work on. Like you said, I haven't got all the natural instincts, natural talents of a lot of these freak players have, and that's not a sob story, mate. That's anyone has to work at their trade, I suppose. But
definitely.
It's probably like you said, the first couple of years are pretty smooth sailing and things are going well, but then. I did hit a bit of a speed bump, more off the field. A couple of family things come into it, and me on the field, they were sort of creeping in on the field, and I'm happy to say that. I'm happy to say to this day, I've got all my off field sorted, all my headspace upstairs a lot better, and now I can go into a game with a clear head, and it is a lot easier. Last year I used to really, how can I say? I still do, don't get me wrong, care about what a lot of people thought and said about me. But now it's the total opposite. I just got to concentrate on my game and what's best for the team. And I've been through a bad spell of suspensions last year, as you said, and bad injuries. But I didn't want to let those negative people get the better of me, like
and
you
win
said.
The situation.
Exactly,
I think,
right. It's more. I realise that if I let them win, it would be the end of me, because it's not like I'm the love child of the NRL, and I'm happy to say that. But I just, at the end of my career, if people know I was a competitor and I never gave up, that's pretty much the most I can hope for.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the ironic thing, I guess, is that competitiveness in you, and you do genuinely have a special kind of competitiveness, got you through those tough times. Honestly, a lot of people, I'll be honest, when I saw you going through all that tough time, I was like, man, I don't know if he's, because obviously I don't know you, but when I was watching, I was like, I don't know how he's going to come through this. He's been suspended this amount of times. He's been injured about this. Like, a lot of players would, they just slowly leak into New South Wales Cup, and then they just stay there and they come back. But you just bounced straight through it. And do you feel that was something from your upbringing of being the competitor that just kind of gave you the mongrel to put that shit aside and just go through it?
Yeah, I think I had to do that, like you said, or it could have happened to me.
Yeah.
Last year there was myself, Moses, and Trent all fighting for 2 spots,
and all guns, like all absolute guns, and you're fighting for those spots. It's tough.
and I really, and it's hard, like, because I get on. We all used to get on really well.
Yep.
But in the end, you want to be the one playing.
Yeah, definitely.
And any of those 2 boys would have said that.
Yep.
And I probably was the one that was missing the jump a bit because of the. Des was probably getting over me, getting suspended all the time, and even though he wouldn't say that to me, but deep down I know that he wouldn't have been happy, and so I just had to, like you said, I had to just hang in there, and I hated that Trent had to leave because I was such good mates with him.
Yeah.
But I feel that definitely made me a bit stronger. I think it probably woke me up, to tell you the truth. And like people say, well, you're the one that's doing these things on the field, but it's hard to, a lot of people probably won't believe me, but these things were just instinct. And like you said, mate, sometimes when you want to compete so hard for something, your natural instincts take over.
Yeah.
And I feel I used to play on a lot of emotion on the field. Definitely. And don't get me wrong, half of that's got me to where I am today.
Yeah, exactly, 100%.
But I've had to realise that sometimes it's not my position not my job role as a half to come up with a big shot on someone, or maybe just try something too early in the tackle count where I should have built pressure and kicked to a corner. And I feel I'm happy to say that that's probably the proudest I am of myself. The most impressive thing I've done.
Yeah,
it's
just channeled that.
It's just grown up.
Yeah,
and channeled it into the right direction. And there's been a few people at the club, at the Dogs, who have helped me with that.
Yep.
In the fact not to lose what I'm about. But
definitely,
like you said, just channel it in the right.
Well, the perfect example is the Manly game recently. That was pure competitiveness. It's like 89th minute. Most guys aren't chasing that kick. Or whatever, and that was just pure, and that's a perfect example of channeling it in the right kind of directions. Whereas, like, maybe a few years ago, you've done a few silly plays in the game, you're fatigued because you're not challenged. You know what I mean? You're not channeling it in the right direction. So you can 100%, as a fan of the game and a fellow ex-player, it's really interesting to see your journey as a player because right now you're 27, so the beauty is you're in your peak right now. So you've got so many more years to continue to grow. Take us back to we speak of competitiveness. Take us back to as a kid. I myself, I was a soccer player, but when I did try to make the transition to footy, a lot of people they're like, you're too small, you're way too small. So obviously you would have had those issues too, being a footy player, being told you're too small, and were you always a competitor as a young kid and everything like that?
Yeah, it's probably the same story, mate. I played soccer when I was 5, and then come into league just because all my friends and stuff were playing. When I was younger, for some reason, I always had gun teams. I was always surrounded by some pretty good players.
Oh, really?
Like I played with Chase Stanley when we were young, and he was a freak, mate. So
I heard he was
we always sort of went pretty good because of him, and a couple of other guys that were pretty good. And I was always, mate, for me, when I was younger, it was definitely more the friend side of it. Like I love footy so much, but I was more like the little fan, and I played footy because of that. I just grew up, and growing up in the Canterbury comp too. There's not all little white Aussie kids. Mate, there's
multicultural kind of thing.
And that's the thing. That's in the end, I think that's what's helped me a bit. Not sort of just being in I don't know how to say it, in a competition where I was probably like really good and just sort of like, don't get me wrong, the team was, but I always had to work sort of extra hard to get where I was. So growing up in that in that sort of area, I reckon has helped me, moulded me into the person and player I am today.
Definitely cool. I mean, it's just funny we bring this up because they're actually talking about bringing in weight divisions for rugby league. But yourself, if there was weight divisions, you never would have had to really deal with the size thing, tackling big boppers, all that kind of stuff. And that's translated into games today. You're fine because you've dealt with it your whole life. There's no issue there, kind of thing. So you grew up in Canterbury, did you say?
Yeah, in Belmore, mate, yeah.
Belmore, so you're a local boy?
Yeah, sure am,
So
mate.
was it a dream to play for the Doggies, or was it just like, I'm playing with my mates, I support the Doggies, and I play because I support the game?
When I was, all the Doggies supporters hate this, but when I was younger, I was actually a Roosters supporter.
Oh,
but
no.
I wasn't really a Roosters supporter. I love Freddie, mate. Freddie Fittler. He was sort of my favourite player, and obviously I just sort of followed him. But when I was younger in the Canterbury comp, I always did want to play for the Dogs. I never really wanted to play for the Roosters, but because I was always, and don't get me wrong, I used to because I was in the area, and you always see the players, all the posters and stuff around. I was like, the boys, because it was obviously Mason and all that coming through. I'm like, these guys are cool, And
it would have been Sonny Bill coming through.
Yeah, and then I was lucky enough to be playing Harold Matts and stuff while those boys were all in the top grade.
Oh,
so
man.
You look at guys like that, and they were a pretty good time, mate.
That's
pretty good team, sorry, So
that side was ridiculous.
Yeah, but then it was always a dream, It was when I was young. I was obviously school wasn't my thing, and I always sort of thought I wanted to do that, but whether I was going to get there or not was probably doubtful,
Yeah, because when you're that age, unless you're absolutely killing it, you're like, man, I'll never that's so far away from me. It's so epic, as if I'll ever get lucky enough to do that kind of thing.
And and it's pretty brutal when you're a bit younger too, because I think when you're a bit younger, all the coaches from the teams and stuff, they let you know a very small percentage play for Australia and whatsoever.
Not to get your hopes up.
Yeah, exactly. And I reckon that's probably the right thing to do.
Definitely.
It probably sends some kids one way, but it makes some kids go, well, I'm going to be...
Well, it trims the fat as well, because if some kid stops training because he gets told that it's small chance make it, then he probably wasn't made for it, because when times get tough, he's going to be like, stuff it,
Exactly right. And I've realised, probably this year the most out of all years, that it's 90% mental, I reckon, and 10%. Everyone trains the same, everyone does the same weights.
I totally agree.
But I think this is the first year I've actually realised that.
Yeah.
I think if you get your headspace right, your footy will come along.
Totally agree, bro. And it sucks because you don't really we forget that most of the guys that are playing right now, they're 25, 26. That's relatively young mentally. Yeah. And it's not until you get to about 27, 28, 29 when you start realising all of these little things that you could have done. I mean, imagine if you could take your 27-year-old mind and put it in your 18-year-old body. How fucking good you'd be.
Yeah.
So what was it like growing up for yourself? Was it did you get all the opportunities? Did you have were your parents together? Were they apart? What was it like for you growing up in Canterbury?
Yeah, so my parents weren't together. They were divorced at a pretty early age. I pretty much grew up with mum, and don't get me wrong, I had a pretty good relationship with dad still.
Yep.
They were always at my games and whatsoever. But yeah, my mum, she done extremely well, and it's pretty well quoted that I got that much respect for her, and I'll never forget that.
100%.
And every player will say that. But I think it's just a bit different when it's
a
the
single
situation
mum.
I was in. Yeah, and you just see what she goes through. And mate, it was her birthday last night, and still to this day, she still refuses just to let me even pay for dinner, mate.
Oh,
and,
wow.
It's hard to explain. It's hard for me sometimes too to explain to her you can't expect me to come here and let you do that after what you used to do for us, and that's another thing that's I think's helped me in a sense of growing up. We never had a lot, and I'm not this is definitely not a sob story because I'm so lucky. You're lucky to have a roof over your head. That's one of the things I was always brought up to realise. But it's a lot of my once I got to maybe 15 to 16, and I was making a couple of the junior sides, and I really wanted to do it. Mum was probably the number one priority, who I wanted to do it for. She gave me that that drive, and I had a lot of family support too, and that's always a good thing.
Oh, massive! It's so massive, and you don't. And when it's happening, you really don't know how. Like now that we're older, and you sit there and go, a single mum. Imagine how hard that would be. Imagine how hard it would be. You're a single mum. Don't get me wrong. Of course, there's support from outside, but you're a single mum. Every day, you go to work, you come home, you get the kids ready. You've already been working for 10 hours. You've got to take them to footy training. You take them home. You make them dinner. You make sure they're all taken.
And you're never happy as a kid, are you? You know, you just. I know me and my brother, mate, we were terrors. So the poor thing. It was ADD and ADHD put together. But mate, I do. You know, I take my hat off to her now because there's. Like you said, I see some of the boys now. A lot of the boys in my team have got kids. Yeah. And they obviously got partners and they're together. And it's hard for them to control the kids sometimes.
Imagine just one.
Her by herself, mate. And
a guy like yourself, I mean, you're not exactly not energetic.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I was probably worse at home. Shit. Because, when no one's there, that's when the kids
Any funny stories with you and your brothers and your mother? Any females and that were saying they actually set their house... Females and J-Mos set their kitchen on fire.
Oh, really?
Yeah, kitchen on fire.
Nothing as good as that, but mate, we had some good brawls back in the day, that's for sure. And my poor mum, mate, she got in the middle of a couple and probably copped a couple herself. But we're actually talking about one last night at dinner, like because we were eating pasta, and my mum said, "Do you remember when my brother he threw literally a bowl of pasta at me? Like, we used to rent houses and that, like, so obviously it wasn't ours, and just launched it at the wall, mate, and there was just pasta everywhere. And I think I picked up his phone and literally just launched it as far as I could. And he's gonna brick my car and everything, mate. It was just full on. If whoever knows my brother, mate, they know there's no.
Who's more energetic? You or your brother?
I'm probably more energetic, but he's more ruthless.
Oh, okay. So he'd always one up you.
Yeah, exactly. He wouldn't care. Like,
is he older or younger?
He's younger.
Okay, so he's just ruthless.
Yeah, my mum always says he was the tough one as a kid. I hate to believe that, but really deep down, I think it's true.
Yeah, my brother, he's a lot more intelligent and just better in all ways, pretty much, my older brother. So you're growing up. When do you reckon was the moment where you were kind of like, I genuinely think I've got a chance here to enter the system and maybe play NRL?
Well, seriously, probably not until I played my first year of reserve grade. I sort of in 20s it was the same. Like I think I played 4 positions in my second year of 20s.
Yeah.
Which I had the utility tag a lot growing up. Like I played 7, 6, 9. I even played a bit of fullback.
Because you debuted at hooker, right?
Yeah. When I first debuted, I come on as like a reserve hooker for maybe 10 games, and I never really had a proper position, and then I come into Premier League, and I don't think there was a half there, and obviously I played a little bit, so I got slotted in there, and I think from then on, actually won 2 comps in Premier League. And I think that really moulded me. Like, Premier League for me is the one where I think it make or break players too, because you can either, like 20s, you can be a really good 20s player, but then not be able to make the step up.
Definitely.
And because you see, I feel you see kids from 20s going into Premier League, and they're just the brutality of it. Like I remember going up against like some heavy players, even playing with I played with like Brad Moran, and these players, mate.
They're men,
tough as and you're like a boy, and you're like far out.
100%.
You got to step it up, or you're going to get like washed away.
And there's because they are men, they have a higher expectation of you as well. Whereas if you're in an under 20s comp, you're all just young kids. Like, so who are you to say that I should be? You know what I mean? There's no real accountability when it comes to
leadership. There's no and that's the best thing. Like if you're doing things that you shouldn't be doing in a game, they'll tell you. But like you said, in 20s, you're sort of just floating around, and everyone's a bit edgy to sort of knock someone else or
100%, totally agree. And it's just you don't really get any man strength until you're like 23, 24. Like, you look at, I mean, you got guys like Latrell Mitchell, which are just absolute genetic freaks. But most 18-year-olds, they're not. Like, even you look at a young Nathan Cleary. So, absolute gun. But physically, he's got so much more to build into.
Yeah, definitely.
And so, it's going to take him a few years. And, like, when he does, he's going to be... he's already ridiculous. So, but you can just... you can just tell his frame is a bit smaller. Even Moses as well, similar situation. Their frames are a bit smaller. They're not as big. So, like, guys like that, their skill gets them across the line. But there are plenty other under-20s guys that they just need a few more years to get that physical kind of nature.
Yeah, I definitely think that. And that's... when I went from 20s to Premier League, I felt... even in your head, like, you go from 20s and like get thrown into the halves, like you're very nervous. Like, I'm not going to lie, you don't necessarily always, like back yourself, and like you said, you're playing with guys that are coming back down from first grade, trying to get back in, so they're doing everything they can to, and and I had a couple of good coaches like along the way who really molded me and just helped me through it, and I reckon that was the time when I really thought it could happen. Like I just sort of started believing in myself and saying, hopefully I could make a thing of this.
Yeah, because you moved into New South Wales Cup in 2010 and you won against the Windsor Wolves. Is it the Wolves? Windsor Wolves?
Yeah,
Windsor Wolves in the grand final, and you were the half, and you got named Bulldogs New South Wales Cup Player of the Year. So it was all the way up until then, until you finally said, oh wow, okay. So even before, like let's say a year before that, were you like, man, I don't know, like maybe not kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely, because it's in the second year of 20s as well. I was off contract at the end of that year.
Yep.
And I broke my ankle. So I didn't play the last 10 games of 20s.
Oh, okay.
And I was
You've been stressing.
Oh, big time, mate.
Yep.
I was, everything was going through your head then.
Yeah.
I was like, this could be it. I was thinking maybe going up to Queensland Cup for a bit just to change it up. Or like talking to my manager, he said, the Dogs they're sort of keen to keep you there, but like obviously like money wise, but money was never a thing for me, so that didn't really worry me.
Because you're from there, you can stay at home if you have to.
Exactly
kind of thing.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the end, I ended up sticking it out, and mate, like the one thing that really the turning point in my career was at the end, like we're very good mates now. Mick Ennis, I was playing 20s, and when I broke my ankle, I was in hospital.
Yep.
And like when you're playing 20s and stuff, you sort of mingle with the first, like not mingle with them, but you see in first graders say, "Hey, how you going?" And but it's
like
not
even
really,
even that, like even when I was playing first grade, maybe when we seen them out, but we didn't really see them because they were there in the afternoon, we were there in the mornings.
Exactly right. So you'd see them every now and then, but I remember I was in hospital and Mick actually called me. Like I didn't even know that he knew me, mate. Like,
that would have been massive.
Yeah, and that I remember just straight from then. Like I remember, I had my mum, everyone in the room, and everyone was a bit down because I was obviously down, and I'm usually a pretty happy person, try to make everyone else happy as well. So
let's put us into this position. So you've just injured yourself, you've got no contract, you're stressing, you're like, maybe footy is over for me. You've got your plumbing, trade already. So you're thinking, fuck, maybe I should take a step into. And that's a genuine thought in your head, and you're sitting around the table, the bed with your family, and it would be a genuinely sad time. Your dreams may be over.
Yeah.
And then you get that phone call.
Yeah, mate, it was unbelievable, mate. And to this day, I still talk about it with him, and he just says, "Oh, mate, there's nothing." And I say, mate, for you to ring a young, like a 20-year-old kid that you don't really know that I used to look up to. I look up to me because he was at the Dogs at the time, and
he was an Origin hooker at that time. I'm pretty sure.
He was going great, mate.
Yeah.
And like I used to love the way he played, and it just for him to do that for me, I'll forever.
So what was the conversation like? Did he
it was just checking in, he's going, mate, just hang in there, like pretty much, and like we saying, I was at a bad state, like you said, I was doing my plumbing, and I to the truth, I didn't really like it, because it was hard because you're going to TAFE and you're like, oh man, I might have to leave a little bit early to the teacher because I've got to. Go to training, and he'd be like, "No, well, mate, what are you doing, footy?" So it was a tough time, and for him to ring me and just say, "Look, mate, I think you've got something," and for you to give it up would be a bad thing because you've got talent and you got the heart, and for him to say that, it just like I said,
that's so impressive. That's the thing that I try to get across to a lot of people. Mick Ennis, we see him on the field and. He's a competitor. He'll do anything to win. But I'm telling you right now, off the field, he is probably one of the biggest gentlemen you will ever meet in your life. Like, straight up old values. It was because I was at the Broncos when he was at the Broncos.
Yeah.
And another thing as well, like for yourself, a lot of companies, I don't know if your companies, they don't consciously put the pressure on you, but there is a subconscious kind of, come on, mate, you need to choose between footy and work here. We're not going to sit here and watch you get injured and pay you while you're injured. And so that pressure would have been on you as well.
100%. And that's, you definitely do feel it, like you said, there. And in the end, it's probably fair enough.
Yeah, 100%.
Because they're a business. The Bulldogs are a business.
Yep.
And you're trying to get the best of both worlds. And they're going, well, mate, there's another 20 kids waiting to do their apprenticeship.
Yep.
So you have to really balance it out. I remember sometimes I'd have to be late at the training, but the Bulldogs are sweet with it because obviously they want you to do things off the field as well. But the other way around, when the plumbing got taken over by the footy a bit, they weren't too happy. But yeah, on Mick too, mate. Like he's probably one of my best mates now.
Oh really?
I still talk to him, and I'm the godfather of his recent daughter. And
mate, he's such
just
a good guy.
like you said, it's perception's a funny thing. You know, it's on the field, but for me on the field, I love what he does.
I love it too. Don't
get me wrong. Like some people just hate it, and some players even hate it. But it's just like you said, he's a character, mate. He's doing what he's done since he was a 6-year-old.
100%. It's not his responsibility to adjudicate what he does. He's like, the way I put it is this. So a lot of people say, sportsmanship and all this stuff. Let's say I one-on-one rake the ball from someone, and I do it intentionally, but I'm hoping the ref doesn't see it. No one calls me a grub because I do that, because I'm trying to bend the rules to get one up on my opponent. It's just like gamesmanship. You niggle, you push. Like, everyone is going to try to do whatever they can to win the game for their team. And it's not up to the players to adjudicate that. It's up to the refs to adjudicate that stuff. That's their job, to make sure the rules are followed. And if they're not followed, you get penalties against it. And so that's my kind of... I love passionate, players that really just leave everything on the field. I love it. So.
You're the ones you want to be next to, hey? Like on game day. I used to remember, mate, like when I played with him, and he'd always, before the game, he'd know the right things to say too, and he's just such a great leader. He leads with his actions, and that's all you want from a captain. And like when you got off the field, he'd be the first one to shake your hand. Like from the opposition team, you just know that when the whistle's done, he goes back to being that, like you said, polite gentleman that he really is. And that's, I've actually based a lot of my off-field stuff on him, mate, because he's just such a great family man. He's such a gentleman. And on the field, I've got the same perception from people. Like fans from other teams absolutely hate me, but I hope to think that the team that I play for, they love what I do. And in the end, he's taught me a lot of things to, like block out the noise, because in the end, if your friends and family and people you associate with know what you're about, and that's all that matters. There's always going to be people that are negative, and people that want to try and bring you down. Definitely. But it's the ones who are always there for you.
And I think intention is a key ingredient as to whether someone is a bad or good person, in certain situations. So if your intent is to go out and hurt someone, then you're a wanker. Yeah, exactly. If your intent is to play as hard as you can and someone gets hurt, then that's not really you're just playing as hard as you can. You're not intending to hurt someone. So, 100% agree. And it's funny because actually a lot of the Sharks boys said the exact same thing. They said Mickiness always knows what to say before a game. Like, gives mad little, pumps you up. I think it was Valentine Holmes was saying, it's like, always pumps me up, man. I love it. I love it so much. So, back to yourself. So, it wasn't... So, he makes that phone call. Then it's like, if Mickiness thinks this of me, I've got to back myself here, kind of thing. Was that with the mindset for you?
Yeah, definitely. It was. And I think, obviously, sort of had talked to the Bulldogs. My manager had talked to the Bulldogs, and I was just in the mindset just to... My goal was to try and just get into the top squad to train with first grade. That's why I said, please, just give me a chance. And the Bulldogs sort of knew that I was a pretty good trainer and whatsoever. Like, I was always going to have a go at training. And I think... I'm not sure if you know Harry Harris. He's actually the South
strength and
HB in now, and he reckons the only reason they put me into the top squad was because I'll go all right in the long distance stuff. He says, you're like the rabbit on the greyhounds. I just sent you out there so everyone can pace you. Like Mick Ennis.
You're the pacer. You're the pacer.
They used to call me Little African Runner. They said I just run around
so
and
fast.
Be happy just to be a part of it. But in the end, if
you there,
if that would have had to be that first year, that's what I would have done. And I always loved, like, really enjoyed being a part of the team morale and that first year, like I said, when I trained that first year, and then, like, luckily enough, I ended up getting the debut the last 10 games because Mick actually hurt his neck.
Oh wow! What about
it's funny, isn't it? Like,
crazy.
He obviously wanted to play, but the chat I had with him, he said, mate, I wouldn't want anyone else to take my position, and I get Jimmy Dimmick is the coach. Kevin Moore obviously taken over by Jimmy, and my dad grew up with Jimmy, and we always had a thing. And when he said he was going to put me in, mate, like, for Mick, it was a special moment. Like, it really was.
So what was that phone call like to both you from Kevin Moore was it Kevin Moore that gave you?
No,
Jimmy
yeah,
gave you the debut. What was that phone call like? It was A, expected, and B, what was the phone call like to Mick when you said, mate, like I'm making my debut? Like, what was that like? Or did he tell you?
Yeah, so I was at training, and I'm pretty sure Mick might have got injured in Origin.
Yep.
Like he hurt his neck.
2011.
Could have been.
Probably would have been.
Anyway, I was at training, and obviously because I was playing reserve grade, playing the halves, I just didn't think anything of it. And Joel Romello was still there too at our club, so I thought he was obviously next in line. And then Jimmy sort of said to me, like, would you have a go at hooker? And I was like, 100%. I'll play any.
I'll front row.
That's the thing. And mate, when he said, I think he not 100% outwent, but I think he obviously went back and thought about it, and then he goes, look, I might start you against the Raiders at hooker. And I was just like, oh, man, it's unbelievable, you know. Like I said, I'll do anything, and I think Jolie was going to come off the bench, and from then on, mate, I ended up getting the 10 games. Like me and Joel just switching between the starting and non-starting, and you know that was now I look at it and go, far out, how did I tackle in the middle? Because mate,
fucking hell, bro.
Mate, one of the things I have to been working hard on is my defence, and so I look at some of the old stuff that I used to do. I just used to get my head in the wrong places, and now I'm just like, no way. But it definitely did help me out, and
baptism by fire kind of thing. It's kind of the perfect, even though it would have been hard, just get you in the middle and get you tackling.
That's
kind of
it,
thing.
and take chances, and that was when the good old shoulder charge was in.
Oh, bro, you would have been shooting out everywhere.
You really have to tackle. It's like get up as fast as you can.
Yeah, and just hit
on
him
the big units, mate, and then get as much cavalry around. But yeah, that's how it all panned out. And as you said, mate, it's crazy how it all happens sometimes.
And what was the phone call like to Mick?
Yeah, like he was, and you know, like he obviously, Mick, like you said, Mick's a complete competitor, and he doesn't want to miss any games.
Yep.
But I remember speaking to him, mate, and he said, mate, it's like I said, he said, I wouldn't want anyone else but you to replace me, and that just added extra. You know, I just didn't want to let him down in a sense. And like I said, it's how it all works out. It's funny sometimes.
It's a crazy journey to think that, you know, you just never know. That single phone call, if that doesn't come through, you just don't know. You might have kept training with the Bulldogs 20s and then the reserve grades, and then you just, all right, you know, I'm getting paid $35 an hour being a plumber because it's a good trade. Being a plumber pays really well. You're probably a hard worker. If you transfer anything off your field on the field, off to the field, so like it would have been very easy for you to slip into that lane. And then that phone call comes through and it leads you all the way to that debut. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. You could not write it. You wouldn't believe it. You're like, So you make your debut 2011. 2012, you play grand final, and you essentially, some would say that was your best year, and you're coming back into that form. You've had plenty of good years since then, but that's when you were really put on the map as like, wow, this guy is a genuine, because that's when you're playing half full time, wasn't it? Yep. So your first year and half, most halves, they struggle to have a full, consistent year in their first year. You know, they go in and out, whereas you had a fantastic year. What was that year like for you? Was that all your dreams come true?
Yeah, it sure was, you know. And like you said, coming in, like I said before, I come into a fairly good team, and I think that helped me out a lot. Coming to still the same to this day, but an awesome pack. That year was the sort of first year that we threw a couple of, like, I'm not sure if you remember, but we had these plays where Big Sammy Cass or James Graham were just going in the line playing out the back. When
you used to do it in reserve
teams
grade.
do it all the time now.
Yeah.
But
3 across the front, and then you'd hit out the back.
Exactly, but teams couldn't defend it. Like they really couldn't. That year anyway. Obviously, the years after.
Yeah. So for the people that are like, what are they talking about? So usually you would go straight to the half from the hooker, and he would go straight to the 6, and then you'd do your plays either short ball or out the back. What the Bulldogs were doing, were utilising their forwards to push the ball across, so they'd have 3 forwards in a line. You go pass from one forward to the next forward, and then the next forward would pass it out the back to the half to the 6, creating an overlap and making the numbers really weird for the defence. So anyway, continue.
Well, that's it, mate. No, it sure was, and defences weren't reading it, and we also had Benny Barber that year, who was the Dally M Player of the Year.
It was offensive.
And
how good he was.
He sure was, mate, and it was just, it was at one stage it was teams were trying to come in, and we obviously we'd know what to do there. Then they'd hold off, and then we just know what to do. And there's just sort of we just kept drilling. We just kept doing the same thing, and it obviously worked all year. And mate, it's just a roller coaster for me. Like you said, you come into first grade and you'd be lucky to play one. You'd be happy to play one semi in your whole life. To get there the first year, to get to the grand final, is pretty unbelievable. And I thought we were pretty unlucky in that first grand final against a pretty, like you said, a pretty great Melbourne team.
Oh, mate. Yeah.
I'm going in there coming up against like a Cooper Cronk and as a half.
And Widdop.
Yeah.
And so like two guns.
Yeah, and it's just, it was surreal, mate. Like I still think back to this day, like I wish I could have that feeling again of how nervous was I? Sometimes I think, how did I even go out on the field? Because I remember I didn't have as much good headspace as back then as I do now.
Yeah, so I was going to say, how did you deal with the immense pressure? You're this young, you're the young half. You're the Moses Zembai of this year. That was you back then, and you don't have you wouldn't have had the same equipment that you have now mentally to deal with these things. What was it like for you?
It was good. It was just everything that year just had so much feel about it. We were all exactly on the same page. We all knew what our roles were. Off the field, we were all such a tight knit bunch, and we had some real characters in the team that made it fun all the time. But then we had the guys that would obviously keep the serious side. So we just had a great balance. And for me, I was just a kid enjoying a ride. I'm just going look at this, it's every kid's dream, and to be able to play in that grand final that week, mate, because I grew up in Belmore, that. I don't think people understand, these people, mate, they're that passionate about footy. So I live dead set where I grew up was a minute or 2 minutes away from the main strip of Belmore.
Oh wow! Okay.
I'd go down to get a loaf of bread at anything, or an ice cream at 6 at night, and that week the street, there was 400 people in the street with drums and just going crazy, mate, because they just love it that, and that's why I love playing for the club, because. And I know sometimes they go some fans go too far with footy, and sometimes they have to remember, we're only human and it's just footy. But they're very passionate about the team, and then that's why I'm a passionate person and I love playing for the jersey.
What was that like for you? When grand final week comes around and you remember yourself as a little kid, and you're like, I remember looking up and thinking. Imagine that. Imagine being a part of that, and then you're sitting there and you're doing it. What was that like for you?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Even the little things, so all year, obviously you learn to deal with the media, and like you said, there was a fair bit of hype about me just because I was young, and it wasn't truthfully in the end. I was, for me, this and people might say different, but for me, I was just blessed. I was in an unbelievable team. And just running off the back of some pretty massive forwards, seriously. But that's
how you feel. Yeah.
But then I'd go that week in the grand final, people you go to Channel 9 and do this thing, and I'm still going in there going far out. I'm doing it with Frankie Pritchard, James, and they're just obviously they've done it all before.
They've been there.
This is another.
And you would have been 21,
22.
So you're just sitting there, just
just loving it, mate. It really was, and that's why I like it. Footy will never be a job for me. It'll always be something that I love, and I always remember when I'm maybe struggling sometimes. I just always try and remember that this is what I do for the love of it, because in the end I feel if you lose that, there's no use of playing.
100%.
If you're turning up to footy and saying, I've got to be here from 7 to 3, I reckon you probably shouldn't be there, because there's many guys out there that would just love doing it.
And it's too physically and mentally hard to get through those times if you're not enjoying it. If you don't love it, those tough times, and that's something I struggled with, because I played soccer till I was 17. I didn't really have love for footy, so when it got tough and you get dropped or put in reserve grade, I never ran on the field enjoying it. I just did it because I was okay at it, whatever. And I'm sure guys similar like that. So unless you have that love for it, you really do fade away quickly, because of you need that love to get through the tough times. Do you have any memories from that first grand final running on the field against the Storm? Any memories from that game that you were that really sticks in your mind as funny or crazy, or anything that you can kind of remember?
that was the first time the biggest crowd I'd ever played in.
Yep.
And just to hear that roar, mate, like, because obviously it was a Sydney team playing against a Melbourne team, so we had all the fans, and like I'd always remembered, like, when I was young, I'd always wanted to sing a national anthem in front of, like, whether it was for whoever, like, obviously when you play for New South Wales, you sing the anthem, or if you play for Australia, you sing the anthem, but I was lucky enough to obviously sing it in a grand final, and I do really remember that first ever time. I've got a photo of it now, like all the boys holding each other.
What was that like, that moment?
Just special, mate. Hey, like, it's, and you know, like, some people, Cameron Smith's done it 50 times, 60 times.
Yeah,
like,
he's bored of it.
Yeah, but you know, I'm sure he probably remembers the first one. And
were you conscious in that moment? Were you like, this is happening? Were you looking around just like?
I was buzzing, like, and it was hard too, you know, because you don't want to get. The older boys are saying, don't get caught up in the week.
Yep.
But it's hard. There's so much going on.
Very easy to say.
And, you know, like before, like back in the day, I used to read the papers and see, like, I'll be like, oh, like this guy. And through Grand Final Week, they say stories of players and things you didn't know. And you read so far into it. And like I said, like, we'd be going to training and there'd be like nearly a sellout at Belmore watching us train. Just little things like that. So, yeah, it was pretty cool. And I remember that's probably the most I remember from that game. I obviously remember we were very close. Melbourne were probably the only team that whole year, that game, that read the plays that we were doing.
Yep.
I think Sisawaka had about 5 knockdowns on the play.
Just
and, like,
jamming in.
One touch, one pass Benny Barber had, whereas they were coming off all year. But like you said, the grand finals, it's just a totally different ball game. And then, you know, I feel Cooper and Cameron Smith sort of just got him over the line, and just off sheer
two greats.
Yeah, you know, just really stepping up and knowing when to pull the trigger. And, and I definitely learnt from that. You know, for my future, like where I am today.
Yeah.
Like, fingers crossed, I'll play in a few more before the end, but I'll definitely know the difference.
Yeah, you know, that experience is just so invaluable, especially they'd been in like 3 or 4 grand finals by then. So they just knew how to kind of handle the situation. So the next year, you get picked in Origin off the bench. I mean, that, again, you know, this 3-year period for you, or 4-year period, is just amazing. What you achieved. What was that like? What was a phone call like? I'm assuming it would have come a bit out of the blue, especially being, no pun intended, a bit out of the blue, being picked on the bench because you're obviously a half and you were a cemented half by that stage. What was it like for you?
Yeah, it was unbelievable to even be considered. Like, you know, my name was getting thrown around here and there, and I literally couldn't believe it, because I just thought, like, surely not this early. Like, I just didn't think it would happen, you know, because truthfully, in myself, I didn't feel I was ready.
Yep.
But then again, I'm not going to say no. Like, I'm not going to be like, no way. Like,
he rings up. No, sorry, I'm not ready.
Yeah, you know what I mean. But like, that's just me being honest, mate. Like, people will probably could talk crap to you and say, yeah, I was ready, 100%. But I'm happy to say that in my headspace, I probably wasn't, you know, where an Origin player should be.
Yep.
But, you know, I remember getting the call and saying I got picked in the squad. Even the squad, like, I was like, fuck, so like I got to go in and
get your gear.
Mate, so what I was going to say is it's now we all like cool and say, gear here, but mate, I was like, I'm going to get a number whatever 24 Origin bag, and like, mate, it's just it was crazy. But the first year I went in, I don't know if you remember, but I got picked in maybe like a 19-man squad, and me and Johnny Sutton were fighting for the bench spot.
Yep,
and mate, they had it like, I remember sort of getting in, and Laurie had to talk to both of us, and sort of just said, I'm not too sure what I'm going to do, whether I'm going to have a second row on the bench or a half, like a
utility.
A utility, sorry, So, and I remember going down, and that was probably because the team was sort of the same as previously picked as other players, but that was only maybe the different between us two, and the media was sort of like, oh, well, what's going to happen? Like, and I remember, like, I don't know how it got out, but they're having a train off.
A train?
Yeah, like, a train off. And like, that's sort of what was going on.
And that is your fucking bread and butter, bro. You are a trainer.
I'm a trainer, man. Nah, but like, it was daunting, eh? Like, I was going, you go to train, I'll go to training tomorrow, and I won't even think two seconds of it. But I remember having to go to that training, and Johnny's obviously a bit older than me, and he's probably a bit like sweeter with it. And I remember just going, mate, my heart was pounding. There's cameras everywhere, and I'm going, this is actually like, I'm gonna have to like concentrate just to catch the ball. And
Yep.
just little things like that. In the end, Laurie was definitely not worried about that training day. Like,
So you thought you genuinely like bought into it a bit.
I
You're
did.
like, oh, shit,
100%.
yeah.
I'm like, oh, yeah. And then, like, I don't know if Laurie actually said it, but like, you know, like he's obviously the media sometimes do whatever they want with what people say, and yeah, I just remember. And then when that day happened, and when he said, oh, he's going to come and see me after that, and like I was nervous as I was literally. I was rooming with Ryan Hoffman, and I wasn't even in the room because I didn't want to. Like I was like really jumpy, and
I didn't like wig him out.
I
and
didn't want to
shit.
wig him out. So I just went. And then when he called me in and said, mate, I'm going to go with you, mate, I just remember like a flush of emotion just going through me. And like I straight away rang my mum and like, mate, just very, like I was emotional.
Yeah,
like,
100%.
It really was, especially because of how it happened. I didn't I was thinking put in straight away, like, especially like because I was like maybe, and then to get there and then.
What was the phone call like to your mum? What were the was it? Hi, mum, just made the New South Wales Origin.
She was the same. She knew what the call was going to be for, and she's obviously seen that what was going on, and and she just couldn't. Like I think she started screaming, and like I had to walk out like in the smoking area of at Coogee because I was just like I didn't want anyone. I didn't want anyone to see me. Like I didn't want anyone to see. I didn't want Gal or Bertie to see me cry, mate. You know, but seriously. But yeah, from that was a very special moment, Like you know, to be named, and you know, like you think of everything, mate. Like you think like of everything in your life when you're a kid. To be called up and put in an Origin team, it's what it's made. It's what it's made. It's
literally what you live for.
Like you know, like I remember like. Don't get me wrong, like I'd love to eventually one day play for Australia or whatever, but I remember when you're a kid, Origin's the go, hey, like that's the one
there's not a single player that would disagree. Like Origin is the game you want to play in. And that's just the way it is. It's just reality.
And when I got to be a part of that with the caliber of player I was playing with, special moment, man.
Man, that's it's amazing. So, you know, you reached this pinnacle, and then. I think you got injured or suspended for the game 3, so you kept your spot. So you didn't get a run in game 1.
First one,
You kept your spot for game 2. You got a run. Then game 3, you got injured or suspended. You're something, but you missed game 3.
Yeah.
Or actually, that might have been anyway. And then the next year, you get selected with Hodgkinson.
Yep.
And that's the year that you break the drought. I mean, we talk about pinnacles. This is even more of a pinnacle because, there is not a single person here that could put a better argument across to say that Queensland side isn't the greatest side to ever play the game. I don't care what anyone says. Maybe I'm a Queenslander, so I'm clearly biased, but you guys were a part of the team that broke that drought. I mean, Walker, was there any memories from that camp and everything like that?
That's I've said the best highlight of my career so far has been the game last year at Belmore when, you know, like that was the first game we played there, and like I come off the bench and people would chanting my name. Like that's probably the best moment I've had. Like, but the not far behind that is definitely even like I'm Trent's one of my best mates too, and even to be selected with him in the halves for the Blues, mate, just surreal. Hey, like it really was. And you know, everyone obviously writes New South Wales off as they have the last couple of or the years before that, and you know they were saying, "Oh, these two like you know duds are like and you know but it's sweet. Like they can say whatever they want, but mate, that's like, and I'm so proud. Like I really am proud just to be a part of it. Like I did for myself. I didn't feature too much. I don't think in the series to tell you the truth, and that's
personal.
I didn't think I broke open the game or I was just a part of it. You know, I was just myself. Like the little things that I could, like and that I knew what was best for me. But then, to win that first game up in Suncorp, by how close it was unbelievable. And then like you said, to win that second game and. It was crazy. Like that'll be something that I can really tell my kids. Like,
is there anything on the field that you remember, like you could just remember seeing, or maybe in the last 5 minutes that you're feeling, or? Oh man,
well, I remember that second game, like towards the back end, like it was freaking, like it was a bit of beef, not beef, but like a bit of thing between me and Thurston, and mate, like even that, like I look back on that now and. Like you look at like Thurston, like he's the best player in the game.
Like, and one of the greatest ever.
Yeah. And like Just me and him going at it. Like, is it weird that that's a moment
positive?
for me? Like,
yeah,
for
that's
me?
mad.
Like, I'm just like, that's so cool, man.
Yeah,
like,
100%.
Like, and you know, like, I've got that much respect for him. Like,
yeah.
Seriously, like, as a player, like, he's just unbelievable. But for me, like, knowing that he knew in his head, he's such a competitor that the drought was going to be broken. That it was just so frustrating for him.
Yeah.
Mate. Like, for me, I'm on the total other end. I've come in and on the back of, like, you know, Hainsey and all these unbelievable players, and we're gonna break the drought after 10 or 8 years or something, you know. Like, so the feelings of, you know, after walking around that field and just seeing what it means to people, like, in the end, you just, sometimes I think we got to take a step back and just realise what we're doing. Like, we're actually making something like a life for people. Hey, like,
it makes them happy.
You know? Like some people might be having a bad day at work, and then they come home and the footy's on, their team wins. You know, and that's a special feeling too.
Definitely.
Hey, like, as you know,
100%.
Like it's just, and just to see that and to be a part of that is just something I'll never literally forget, because it's a special thing. Like you said, I agree with you. Like, how can you look at that team and where do you go?
Oh, there's literally not a single position on that side that you could question as to. Like, it's unfair, nearly.
It is.
Genetic, like, how did they get that many good players born in that same time? It's just crazy. Like, in that team, they literally have probably 4 or 5 people that could be immortals.
Yeah,
like,
easy,
and that's
man.
crazy. Do you remember anything like when you walked off the field? What was the chat like in the changing rooms? I know Beam was in that. I think it was Beam was. Anyway, one of the boys was saying everyone was just absolutely, like, people were throwing up on the ground, lying down, just done, just completely done.
Yeah, literally, and because when you get off the field, there's like so many people in the sheds too, and like it's just the best feeling to be sitting in that circle. And obviously Laurie's saying, boys, look what you have done, you know, like, and you don't really realise until you stop, sit back
and think about it,
and think, who you done it with, and it's unbelievable. Yeah, it wasn't it? Like, and even, I guess, Origin's just that it is it's a different level. It's a different beast. Like, you literally got, and that's me. Like, I'm a half. I don't know how the front rowers do it, back rowers do it.
Crazy.
I don't know how they got anything. I don't know how they live after.
Yeah.
So,
oh, mate,
but yeah,
100% agree.
It's mate. I'm so lucky to be a part of a great. It's just even Origin, mate. Like, I can. And don't. I'm not resting on my morals now because I've already done that, because I want to do it again.
100%. That's what I was going to talk about. So you know, you win. You finally break the drought, and then next year it just happens to be one of the toughest years of your career. You know, if you're trying as hard, you're literally trying your heart out, but just nothing is going right for you on the field. And I remember this period for you, and I just was just watching you, and you could just see that you were just so frustrated with everything because you were doing everything you could, but it just wasn't coming off. What was that like for you? You know, did you, when you didn't get selected after, you know, it was about 4 or 5 months that you're playing, and you'd play mad one game, and then you'd come back and you might make an error or two. You know what I mean? And it was just like,
I was off, like, hard.
It was just it looked so hard to watch. But yeah, what was it like for you that year? Was it just turmoil, like the roller coaster completely, or? Yeah,
it was, and that was, like you said, the first 3 years were fun, easy sailing, and everything was like, wow, is this happening? And then that happens, you're like, well, hold on, this isn't what's been happening the last couple of years, you know. And
I could lose this kind of thing. This great feeling.
And then even like you over try, don't you?
Yeah.
When things aren't coming off, you're like,
especially if you're a competitor like yourself.
Yeah,
you know, some people can sit back and be like, oh, they can just like let it go. Whereas if you're a competitor, mate, fuck. You want
to be in every game, don't you? You know, you want to be in every game, and you want to have an impact on every game. But sometimes, like, I'll go away from a game and I don't do something like that I feel is up to my standard. I don't have a game, I'm like, far out. Like, I'm disappointed in myself. But whereas other people just be like, I was there, I was sweet, I didn't do anything wrong, but, you know, like, it's just...
I'm exactly the same. When I used to play, if I dropped a ball, it would kill me all week. Like, it would kill me. I could score... I remember I scored, like, 2 tries and played relatively well, and I dropped the ball, and I went up to Wayne after the game, like, I am so sorry for dropping that ball. Like, I can't believe it was off a scrum. And, some people can just... It's all good, whatever. Next week, I can't do that.
And that's the best way to be, but I sort of am a bit like that now. I've learnt ways to deal with errors or bad things I've done on the field, even off the field. Like, I've learnt how to push them away for the right times. And, and that year, mate, it was just so, like, it was very different, and and the expectation was obviously there because I was the incumbent,
and you broke the drought, so you're New South Wales halfback now. You've got to be that.
Well, that's the thing. And the thing in previous years, like, like, don't get me wrong, but the players that were there probably, like you said, Queensland were an unbelievable team.
Yeah.
It would have taken it would have taken some real hard and a really close-knit team to beat them, like we did.
Yeah.
But the players before, like they weren't winning, but they were still sticking with them, and that's good. But like I believe that's good. That's how it should be in some ways. But like if it's just
sometimes
not working,
you've got to make the hard choices.
But then, like I was like, okay, so in my head, I'm thinking if I just play consistent footy, I should be hopefully be in the team again, and like I'd go out there and, like I said, a bit of off-field stuff wasn't happening. And
I was going to say, was that the same time in your life when family issues off the field?
Yeah, it was, and that was all happening. And I learned to I as a person, I like to deal with things myself and bring a lot of stuff myself, because you really in yourself, like I'm sweet with this, like like well, that's how I am.
Yeah.
Like if things happen off the field, like to your to your family or this or that, or even like like things happen and it got written about, and I was like, oh, that was a bit bad. Like when my mum and stuff got brought into it.
Okay, so can you? I mean, you don't have to, but can you walk us?
Yeah,
I don't remember.
My brother, like my brother, got in a bit of strife with the police, and obviously because of what we do, like it got out in the media a bit, and I knew my mum was, because like I said, my mum's everything to me, and she was taking it really hard. So obviously, if my mum's not happy, I take it hard too.
100%. I do as well.
I try everything to try and to change it for her, but it just wasn't happening. And then I, like my preparation wasn't good, because a lot of the nights of the week I'd have to go and sort with the family, and then get to Friday and I'd have to play. And I'd just think, oh, sweet, it's footy. I can do what I want. But it started getting a lot harder, and I'd have to try a lot more in games, because obviously my head wasn't there.
Yeah. And your preparation is just nowhere near the same.
Exactly. Yeah. And you don't realise how important preparation is till you're a bit older.
Especially a guy like yourself, your training is a key part as to why you even made first grade. You know what I mean? You got put in that first grade squad because you were such a good trainer. So when you take that away, it's like you just lost your whole foundation as to why you do what you do so well, kind of thing.
Yeah, and then it all, like you said, it starts rolling, and then articles start coming out saying, "Wow, can we pick him again on what he's doing?" And in my head, I'm going, "Fuck, I need to prove these guys wrong." And I'd go out to prove them wrong. I get suspended for going too far. And then I just feel like, what do I do? Like, what am I doing here? And I didn't know who to talk to, and I sort of, like I said, it just all built up. And then, did you
have any conversations with Mick in that time at all? Like, or was it just like a tough time in your life?
I did. Don't get me wrong, but sometimes it's hard you need actual a person who knows exactly what to say. And don't get me wrong, Mick's really good at that. Yeah, but you're never going to tell someone exactly what's going on in your family life.
Definitely, 100%.
And that's something that you don't want everyone to know what's going on.
Definitely. And also, a professional has heard and seen it all and knows the ways to fix it. So you can trust that. You trust that knowledge.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, they know exactly how to how to put where to put your energy and where not to. And then come to the time when it was getting picked, and obviously Laurie gave me the call, and I didn't. He said, "Mate, I'm going to have to go in another direction." And I'm not going to lie, I was devastated, obviously, but I was angry. I had so much anger, because off the field I had anger, and on the field, because of that, I had so much anger too. And I'm just going, far out. How can this happen? And I started saying how we won it last year. How can he cannot, and this and that? But now looking back at it, I'm like, I gave him every reason not to.
Yeah, you didn't give him enough reasons to. Kind of thing.
Well, even he probably could. I probably could have just, like you said, just even played and not had much impact on games, and still would have got picked.
Yeah,
because he knows what I'm about, because I've obviously done it for him before.
But, I know what you mean.
But I was giving him reasons not to, and it really hurts me when I think about that, because things could have been so different. Like, who knows? I could have still been there now. But that's life, and mate. And I've learned a big lesson from that. And now I feel I'm a totally different person today. That's why I feel this year. This year was probably the first year after that happened that I've probably been thrown into the mix again. And that's, for me, that's a mini step.
Definitely.
So I got to realise that these are the things that I'm doing at the moment that obviously are appealing to them. And if I can hopefully keep doing that, I might be a chance one day. I might not be a chance one day, but I know in my head that I'm in a way better headspace and know how to deal with them things if they ever pop up again. And that's one thing I've learnt from that whole experience that year.
And I guess the massive positive for you here is you're still here. A lot of guys just honestly, people don't realise this. It just takes 5 terrible games, and then all of a sudden Moses Mbai pops up. He's one of the best halves in the game. And let's say Trent was still here, and you have 5 terrible games. Like,
well, that's what happened. Mate.
Yeah,
it really
exactly.
did.
Like,
And like Des is obviously like he obviously has so much faith in me because he put me at 5'8" when I wasn't even playing there at the start when he first came. And I hope he likes what I'm about. And but sometimes, like you said, in the end, things pop up. Moses Mbai comes, and like you said, people are comparing him to like a Jonathan Thurston. They don't want to let him go, like what the Dog's done with Thurston. And like they don't want to take that risk. And Trent's a great, unbelievable player. He was Origin half, and I had some head noise. Like, I'm not going to lie,
100%.
But yeah, I just stuck in there, learn how to deal with it. And the good thing for me was I always take pride in this. Like, my mum always said to me, never, if whatever you do in your career, don't ever get a big head. And I feel it worked in my favour, that because if I thought I was better than what I was and thought I was a big head, I would have been like, no, see you later.
Made excuses for yourself.
I'm leaving, mate.
100%.
Who are you? Like, I've played Origin.
How dare you?
I've started for you for 2 years. But that's where I take pride in the person
Definitely.
I am to sort of stick it out through the tough times, and it's worked out. So
thank God, man. Like, and the good thing is, like, there's no bigger fool that you could make. You know what I mean? Like, so that's the hardest. You know, winning Origin and breaking that drought, and then not making the side the next year. Like, there's nothing that can hurt you more than that. So you've been through the worst now. So you're in a really good, strong position at the moment. And like, you're only 27. Like, fuck, you got so many years. So you know, this year with you boys, what is the kind of, or for yourself personally, what's the goal this year? Obviously, it is to play in the grand final, but like over the next few weeks, what do you plan to do as a player? What are you hoping to do as a player?
Yeah, well, like I said before, like, I feel in a semi-final series that I haven't really taken a stamp in a game as a half. Like, and that's and don't get me wrong, I've got the balance right now. I don't have to go out there, score 4 tries, set up 6, and kick 4 field goals. It's just being in the game, being dominant, doing what I need to do for the team, but also taking a step back and realising it's just another game.
Stick to the process,
exactly,
kind of thing.
Exactly right. Stick to the process, and things will come. Obviously, we're not going the best at the moment. We lost 2 on the trial, but we still know what we still know as a team what we're
still
about.
Have faith
and that's
in your
good
ability.
for me too. I know the boys aren't, down in the dumps and feeling. So, for me, I just want to stick to the new player. I feel I am. And a lot better now because I'm a lot calmer and like I said, I'm not playing on emotion. Like, so, for an example, in that Manly game, like you said, I done that. I got disallowed that try, and I was
I was gonna walk you through. I actually forgot my iPad, but I was supposed to walk you through that entire play. Walk us through that 10-minute period of what you were thinking, how it all came about. Just walk us through it all.
So like. I'm not sure if you read what happened, but that week was a pretty hard week for myself. My uncle was really sick with cancer, and they sort of said that it could be the last week for him. And on that actual day, the Thursday or the Friday we were playing, Thursday I think, my mum sort of rang me in the morning, and she's like, my mum knows now because I've sort of warned her like 2 days before the game, no calls about no crap, no this, no that. And she just said, look, I have to tell you, like, you're not giving him too long. And in myself, I'm going, fuck. Like, he's my uncle, and they're like, he might last 2 or 3 days, but it's a risk. So I was like, I have to go see him. This is the Thursday of the day, and I was contemplating whether to go see him, and then I rang someone from the club, the Bulldogs, who I'm really close with now, who helps me out with a lot of my headspace stuff, and he was really good for me. He said, mate, either way, whatever you do, whatever decision you make, he's going to be sweet with it because he understands, even though he's sick and whatever. But I made the decision to go and see him. It was hard, like, he's in a bad place. And but in the end, my mum and my auntie said, when I come, I made him smile, and I haven't seen him smile in a long time. And and for myself, to know that I cheered him up that little bit before, and actually gave him a jersey to wear that night because he said, I'm going to be watching you and stuff, mate. So that was a pretty special moment. And truthfully, when I left the hospital, I was like, I felt like a whole weight off my shoulders. Like, I really did. Because I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do because I know, like I said, my preps usually, now I know exactly bang, 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 into a game. Sweet.
Whereas this is throwing a spanner in the works.
And I'm like, I change my pep? And it might sound bad. Like, of course you're going to go. People say, of course you're going to go see your uncle or whatever. And don't get me wrong. Yeah, I was always going to go, but I just didn't want it to interfere with the game because it was crucial.
You want to handle it the best way possible.
Exactly. So I'm driving home and I just felt so good. Like, I felt really good and turned up to the game. I felt really light. I felt awesome, and the game went however it went, and then it come into Golden Point, and I just sort of got the ball on that last play and went for the field goal. It had massive pressure from the inside, so I kicked over and sort of just come up with over the top, little chip over the top.
Didn't bounce back in your hands?
It's sort of... Nah, that was the play before where I got disallowed the try.
Yeah, so walk through that and then the try.
Yeah, so that's the chip and chase, and Cherry Evans sort of grabs it and drops it, and I sort of give him a little push because I thought he was going to catch the ball. Yeah, you got
to tackle. Like, if you don't go to tackle them and he does have the ball, he gets back up and runs off.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, but anyway,
that's common sense.
And then but then I grab the ball, score the try, and straight away I think, mate, couldn't be any better.
Yeah, like, what a day.
I had my uncle's name on my thing. And,
oh wow!
And obviously it was a pretty emotional day, and I was like, this couldn't be better. And then when they disallowed the try, I was like I went off. Like, I was like, I haven't gone off at it in a long time at a ref or whatever. Like, I feel like I haven't, like I used to. And I was just like, are you serious? You know, they obviously don't know what's going on off it, but I'm like, this can't happen. And I actually look over, and because I always muck around with Freddie Fitler on the side. He's on 9. And,
I love him, bro. He's so funny.
Yeah, and he's like on the sideline, and I'm obviously swearing, like, what's going on? I look over, and he goes like, just get on with it, like, go, like, it's still 5 to go or whatever. Yeah. And I just said, you know what, like, I have to, like, because I'm the half, and I have to.
You're the lead. You're a leader.
Apparently,
and that's Freddie, like, your idol.
That's what I mean. Like, it was pretty crazy. I actually said it to him in the interview after it all happened. Like, I was like, man, I looked over at you, and you're like, what are you doing? Let's go. Like, And then like, same thing. We changed ways. I think it was the 88th, 89th, to get some pressure from the inside from last, and I was going to go for the field goal, but pass it to Jacko, and he mirrors it straight to Sammy Purd, and I just obviously, because Jacko's, the boys down my age are really good. They're always making little half breaks, and I always try and back up the middle. And it's funny because it's happened to me twice this year before, where I've passed the ball the outside and just got too excited and been in front of the kicker, like the winger.
Oh, yeah.
And Des is like, mate, you know it's not NFL. Hey, like, you got to be behind the kicker. And I'm like, it cost us a try once. And I'm like, anyway, so I was behind him, mate, and the ball just rolled, and like Javoyevich was steaming onto it because I was sort of putting a bit of pressure on him. And mate, the most unbelievable bounce. Like, I'm just like,
so good.
He dropped it, and I'm just like, wow, mate. And like, the emotions were pretty high. Like, because like I said, it was a pretty heavy day, and obviously I got interviewed after, and was able to sort of say you know, this was for my uncle and my mum. My mum told me after that. I got to see him again the next day because he was sweet, my uncle, and he said, mate, the nurses had to tell us to be quiet because all the mum that were in the room. So
that's fucking sick. That's so cool,
moment,
bro.
Mate. Yeah, that's
so
very
cool.
Special moment.
And it's like, for all those things to come, your idol is on the side of the field. You know, your uncle is watching, and you get to give him that. You know he was smiling watching that. You know, you give him that moment. Far out. It's so cool, man. It's so cool. Man. Fuck, man, I apologise. We've been on way over time. We're at an hour 10, bro. Sorry, bro. Ask all the boys. Actually, just quickly, the media attention for yourself, you know, with all the you know, you're getting suspended and like, how is it dealing with that? Have you gotten better with it, everything like that? And is it, what would you say to fans that are like, that read those things? What would you say to them?
Yeah. Oh, I've had to have got better because it's happened to me a fair bit, and like I used to read into it sometimes, but now I just don't read it. Like, and that's the best way to be. Obviously, it's always going to pop up because, you know, like, if you have social media, you always see a thing or hear, whether you see it, whether you want to see it or not. And like I said, mate, I've just realised, and sometimes it does hurt me, like when the fans are like, "Oh, he's such a grub," and they'll write to me on Instagram or whatever. Like I just feel sometimes, like, people just got to realise that we're human beings, mate.
Like actual person.
Like, you have a bad day.
Yeah.
Like we always talk amongst the boys, like the guy who writes me sometimes, he might be a plumber.
Yeah.
I'm sure he stuffs up a rough in one day.
100%. Happens every day.
What am I going to write to him, mate?
You are a grub. You like, terrible plumber.
What are you doing, mate? Yeah. But then again, you know, like, there's the other side where
it comes with the territory.
Exactly right. Yeah. And you just got to deal with it. You know, I hate when it's funny because my mum works at the Bulldogs Cafe
in
Belmore.
Yep.
And they all know she's mum, and she sometimes, like, people say, like, what's your son doing, mate? And she cops it too, you know, so she's worse than me. She's worse than me, yeah. But, mate, I've learned to deal with it. Like I said before, my friends and family know what I'm about off the field. Because, like, when you think about it, like, it's funny, like, Michael Leash is, like, a really good mate of mine now, and he said to me one day, he goes, like, footy's this much of your life. Like, when you think about it, it really is. You
retire, you've got 80 years to go,
exactly
especially
right.
today. We'll all live to 100, our generation.
100%. And you just realise, like, people aren't going to care about you in
100%.
5 years. Right. For me, like, however long I go. And then I'd rather, like a good bloke off the field, like, be a good bloke off the field. I know people hate me on the field, and so be it. I've dealt with that. I've had to deal with it.
Yep.
But as soon as I walk off that field, if someone comes up to me and says they've met me and I was rude to their kid or I didn't have time for them,
then you'd be
that's when I
Yep.
realise I've changed as a person.
Yep.
But to this day, I can honestly say that I feel I've got a lot of time for everyone.
Yep.
And especially, you know, like, the Bulldogs community sort of know that, and I like it, and it really, like, we're very lucky. Like, we sometimes we can go into a room and change someone's day.
100%.
For no reason, just by walking into the room, and to have that privilege is a very special thing, I reckon, and I'm going to use it as much as I can.
Definitely.
Because, like I said, in however long it's done, people aren't going to care.
And I guess also something like, to fans watching, there's no incident where you intentionally do something. Like, when you're out there as a player as well, you're not even, honestly, half the time I wasn't even thinking. Like, I literally couldn't even tell you who I was running at because it was a blur. Because I was just going. And but yeah, so I totally agree with you, bro. Especially, you know, as long as that's something else with me as well. Like, if I was ever playing and I did something on the field, as long as I got off the field and treated everyone with respect, I was always kind of happy with myself. But favorite rapper of all time.
Favorite rapper.
Yep.
I'd have to say probably Biggie, mate.
Biggie?
Yeah.
Boom. Biggie.
Yeah, he's good, bro.
Favorite movie of all time?
Remember the Titans.
That is a fucking great movie. Great
Every
movie.
footy player probably say a lot of footy players.
Well, Shawshank Redemption's been number one.
Yeah,
and
show.
Favourite rapper is Eminem. That's been the most.
Yeah, okay.
Most. If you could have a billboard anywhere and say anything, what would it be and where would it be?
A billboard, probably in a place where, it's hard. It's hard to know, but a place where people are just, like you said, like the people going to work every day, just be happy, like, you know, like, we're breathing, like that. In the end, like, that's the main thing. And now I don't want to sound like one of these
naive
people, but, you know, like, it's seriously true. Mate, like, we're here today, like, sometimes. And that's why sometimes I get so angry at, like, young people these days, like, they come straight from school into maybe a first grade training, and they're like, oh, we got fitness today, and I'm like, hey, wait till you got to dig from 5 in the morning till 6 at night on overtime. Like, that's, just, you know, be happy, be content with your life. And it's easy for us to say because we've had pretty lucky lives.
Yeah, we've been very lucky.
But me and you, we've been on the other end too. We've got like apprenticeships and whatsoever.
Yeah,
so
we've been there.
You know the other end.
It's funny you say that because today I got my car washed and I haven't had it washed in ages, and they crashed my car. Awesome. And like I don't have the money to fix it. Anyway, it was these two immigrants, and like I walked out, I saw it was crash, and I was like, and slowly I was just like getting angry. You know how you just and I just went. I said, wait a second. These poor dudes are from some other country that, like India, I think it was India and Sudan, could barely speak English, and they are literally just trying any way they can. They're like probably not even citizens yet. They're just trying to make a living for their family, and they've crashed my car. Like, does that really matter to me? These poor dudes are fucking doing anything they can. They're driving a car when they clearly know they can't drive a car, but they're doing it because they don't want to lose their job. Because their job literally is probably saving their kids' lives back in wherever they are. And I was just took a step back and I said, I can't even believe I felt that way for a second. Like, what is that to me? You know, this poor dude was like, I'm so sorry, could barely speak English, and I was like, mate, mistakes happen, don't even worry about it. As long as your insurance takes care of it, it's all good. But yeah, just pulled me straight back, and I said, these poor dudes are literally doing anything they can just to support their families, and I'm here, privileged as anything, about to get mad at a little, like, well, it was a pretty big scratch, but it was a pretty big dent and scratch. But you know what I mean? Like, it really did.
That's a good way to be, because we all get caught up, don't we?
Oh, 100%. Anyway, brother, thank you so much for this. Appreciate it, bro. We've gone way over time. We've got too many interesting stories, so I'm going to blame you.
All good, mate.
Thanks for that, brother. Appreciate it.
No worries, man. Thanks for having me.
I got a really big team, and they need some really big rings. They need some really nice things. Better be coming with no strings. Better be coming with no strings. We need some really nice things. We need some really big rings. I got a really big team. I got a really big team, and they need some really